Here we have a problem in algebra 2, that is we have to solve for x in the given rational equation. Okay, in my first step what I'm going to do is I'm going to simplify the expression we have on the left side of the equation. So that is we have to add the two fractions. Whenever I want to add or subtract two fractions, I must have the same denominator for both the fractions so that I can get the common denominator and I can simplify the numerators. But here when I look at the denominators of the two fractions we have over here, they are different. Okay, two denominators are different and both of them are numbers and we can get the least common denominator, but here it's not possible because both the denominators contain variable. So what do we have to do? How can we add the two fractions we have on the left side of the equation? We can apply the cross multiplication method. That is cross multiplication means the numerator, the first numerator has to be multiplied by the second denominator and the second numerator has to be multiplied by the first denominator. Then we have to multiply the two denominators. Okay, now let me do it. Now I'm going to multiply the first numerator 2 by the second denominator x. Then I'm getting 2x positive. I multiply the second numerator by the first denominator, that is 1 times x negative 3. So now I have to multiply the two denominators over here, x negative 3 times x. It can be written as x times x negative 3 equals to x negative 1 over x negative 3. Okay, now let's do some simplification over here. We get 2x. We can distribute positive 1 to x and negative 3. So when I do so, I'm getting x negative 3 over x times x negative 3. Let me write it over here. Equals to x negative 1 over x negative 3. Okay, now when I combine these 2x and x, I'm getting 3x negative 3 over x times x negative 3 equals to x negative 1 over x negative 3. Okay, now what I have to do is I have to get rid of the denominators on the left side and right side of the equation. Once I get rid of the denominators, the fractions will be no more and I can solve for x easily. Okay, so to get rid of the denominators, let's look at the denominators we have over here. So here, when I look at the denominator on the left side, I find the factor x negative 3 and the right side also I find the same factor x negative 3. So if I multiply both sides of this equation by x negative 3, I'll be able to get rid of the denominator on the right side completely. On the left side, I'll be able to get rid of this particular factor x minus 3 in denominator. Okay, now let me multiply both sides of this equation by x negative 3. Let me write it. Here I multiply x negative 3. So x negative 3 will cancel. The same thing will happen on the right side as well. Okay, now the resulting equation is 3x negative 3 over x equals to x negative 1. Okay, still we have x and denominator on the left side over here. To get rid of this x, what I have to do is I have to multiply both sides of this equation by x. Let me multiply the left side by x and right side also by x. So here this x and x will cancel out. So the resulting equation is 3x negative 3 equals to, now we can multiply this x and x negative 1. That is we have to distribute this x to x and negative 1. So when I do so, I'm getting x square. That is when I distribute this x to x. When I distribute this x to negative 1, I'm getting negative x. Okay, now we have a quadratic equation in the variable x. Now to solve this quadratic equation, what I have to do is I have to get this quadratic equation in standard form. Standard form means we have to get everything on one side of the equation and the other side we must have 0. Okay, now let's try to make the left side 0. For that we have to get rid of this positive 3x and negative 3. So for that I subtract 3x from both sides and also I add 3 to both sides. When I do so, so this positive 3x, negative 3x will cancel, negative 3 positive 3 will cancel. I'm getting 0 equals to x square negative 4x. When I combine negative x and negative 3x, positive 3. Okay, so now we have quadratic equation standard form. I think this quadratic equation can be solved by factoring. So for that, what I have to do is I have to multiply this constant term positive 3 by the coefficient of x square, that is 1. So when I multiply this positive 3 by the coefficient of x square 1, still I'm getting positive 3. So now I have to get two factors for this positive 3 so that the product of two factors equals to positive 3 and the sum of the two factors equals to the coefficient of x, that is negative 4. I think negative 3 and negative 1 will work. When I multiply negative 3 and negative 1, I'm getting positive 3. When I add them, I'm getting negative 4, which is coefficient of x. Okay, and also what I have to do is I have to divide both these factors. I mean, to solve for the two values of x in this quadratic equation, I have to divide both these factors by the coefficient of x square. In this case, it's 1. So let me divide the first factor by negative 1 and the second factor also by negative 1. When I divide negative 3 by 1, still I'm getting negative 3. So the same. When I divide negative 1 by 1, still I'm getting negative 1. Okay, now to get the two values for x, what I have to do is I have to change the sign of these two factors. So now let me consider the first factor. It's already negative sign. If I change the sign over here, I'm getting 3. So the first value of x is positive 3. And now to get the second value of x, I have to change the sign of this factor. It's already negative. If I change the sign, it will become positive. Okay, I solved this quadratic equation and I got two values for x equals to 3 and x equals to 1. Since we are solving a rational equation, the solutions we get at last always have to be verified with the given rational equation, particularly with the denominators of the rational equation. So here we get two solutions. One is x equals to 3 and other one is x equals to 1. We have to verify both the solutions with the denominators of the given rational equation. That is, we have to make sure the values we get for x over here should not make any of the denominators in the given rational equation as 0. Because if the denominator becomes 0, then the value of the fraction is undefined. Okay, now let me verify the first solution, that is x equals to 3. That is, I have to plug in x equals to 3 into the first denominator over here. So when I plug in x equals to 3 over here, what will happen? 3 negative 3, that is, the denominator becomes 0 when x equals to 3. So then the value of this fraction is undefined. So the first value of x makes one of the denominators in the given rational equation as 0. So we cannot consider this x equals to 3 as a valid solution. It's an extraneous solution, so we can reject it. Okay, now let's consider the second solution, that is x equals to 1. Now let me verify this solution with the denominators of the given rational equation. When I plug in x equals to 1 into the first denominator over here, 1 negative 3, anyways, it's not equal to 0. So it does not make the first, x equals to 1 does not make the first denominator as 0. Now let's verify x equals to 1 with the second denominator x. So when I plug in x equals to 1, it is not equal to 0. And also, again, we have the same denominator x negative 3. So this will not become 0 when x equals to 1. So the second solution, x equals to 1, does not make any of the denominators in the given rational equation as 0. We can consider this one as a valid solution. So therefore, the solution for the given rational equation is x equals to 1.